Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm here today with Reneille Velez of Cake and Lace Events. And I want to thank you so much for coming in today, Reneille. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and what your company is.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really excited to be here as well. I am the owner and lead planner for Cake and Lace Events. I'm located in the Tacoma area, so south sound of Washington, but my team is all over. So I have a team of wedding planners, and I've traveled all over this past wedding season. We specialize in a bunch of different things we can go over here shortly, but I'm excited to be here, of course, and offer just any questions and answers for wedding planning.
And so are you guys still busy right now? Or do you feel like you're winding the season down? How's it going for you guys?
Super busy. So we just had a wedding at the Edgewater on Saturday. We have a couple more of the year and just a couple more. I actually have a consultation after this podcast for a December wedding. So I like a lot of people say that wedding season is over in the summer for Washington, but I just feel like that's not the case sometimes. So
well, I find like at least now where people aren't doing as much video for inside winter weddings, but then the consults pick back up again, and that's everybody for next summer. So, well, great. So, you guys are a wedding and event planning company. You guys handle all aspects, day of. Talk about the different specific services people can.
Yeah, absolutely. So my company focuses on wedding and events as far as design, coordination, and full and partial service planning. So I'd say for the last year of business for us, we've done a good amount of weddings, but also special events as well that I can speak to, from birthday parties to bridal showers to baby showers. And we focus on that all throughout Seattle and the Tacoma area, as well as Kitsap. So I have about 6 girls on my team, from planners to assistants to a intern, so a 6-month intern from the University of Washington. So we offer a really great program there. But we specialize in a bunch of different, types of events and not just weddings. Yeah,
and I remember, I feel like I've been in this long enough now in Seattle where I remember you guys, coming in and seeing the start, and because it's been over the last couple of years. And so what has that, been like, kind of the growth in the last couple of years, and more specifically, the entering the Seattle wedding community and learning those ropes and figuring that out?
Yeah. So I started in the event industry about 6-7 years ago for corporate event planning, and then transitioned into weddings about a couple of years ago. And it's been a lot of fun, I would say. So I want to highlight that, everyone in Seattle has been very welcoming, a lot of networking here, a lot of collaboration. So we've done a number of styled shoots just during the first couple of years of being open, and a lot of weddings. So in September, we did, just this last month, we did 11 events and totally kicked our butts, but we survived. But I would say it's been a lot of fun. At the very beginning, there's a lot of learning. So I think, we did some weddings that, they weren't our ideal client, but we wanted to gain that experience and probably priced them at maybe less than half of what we price today, just to, get those weddings on the books, that marketing. And from looking at, I actually found my old timelines. So as a planner, you look at your old timelines and itineraries that, you give out to the vendors. And I was like, I created this and it was crap. Can I say that word? But, and then now looking, at the growth of, my company, we went from, myself and a business partner at the very beginning, and now growing to a total of, 6 planners and assistants on our team. We're able to handle just the past 12 months, we've done, I would say, over 30 events. And so we've grown just dramatically. And I think, a lot of it is just the stuff that we advertise as well. But just the hard work that we've been putting in for the past couple of years is really paying off now. So.
Yeah, as a rule, I don't look at any video I've done over a couple of years old, because it's always scary to go back and you go, wow, that was what I was doing then. That's good. What were the biggest did you have any misconceptions when you started? Did you think it was going to be a lot easier? Did you think it was going to be a lot harder? Did you think?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I come from a world of corporate event planning. So just production and lights and uplights, and but mostly a background in sales. So my goal when I was putting on a lot of the events was either to communicate to sales channels or to sell a product. So yes, to answer your question, it's been very different. Doing a wedding, right? So now it's more of a celebration than, a sales achievement or process that you need to roll out. So my background is in communications as well. So when I stepped into the wedding world, I think, because I'm not married myself, so just really understanding, the ins and outs of the first couple of weddings that my team put together was probably the challenge. Just a little, things like the what ifs, right? So trying to be a couple steps ahead of the bride and groom and just learning that from the first couple of weddings we did. I remember like one point I was like, oh, I got to put the bride's, gifts in her car. And we just forgot to put that in the timeline. So the little things like that, I think over the first couple of weddings, we were able to iron out and now include it in every single timeline that we put together. So.
Yeah, it is. It's always learning early on that kind of helps you kind of figure out, how to refine and do stuff better. So what's your background? Did you go to school? What were you doing? You said corporate before. So let's go back kind of to the beginning of this journey. We'll figure out kind of our journey as we go. Yeah.
So my experience, I have about 12 years of telecommunications and operations experience in that industry. So I have supported iPhone launches for our retail channels. I work in the wireless department for two different carriers in the past. And I've had to put together some pretty big, events, both internal and external for the companies I worked for. And so I started that in 2008. I would say I've been in sales my whole life, which is actually, why I love managing the team of planners that I have. I love the business side of it and the development side of it for the team. But I started, I worked for AT&T back then. I was with them for about 9 years. And I started my business because I was actually let go from AT&T about 2 years ago and really wanted to, focus on event planning. When I went to the University of Washington, I took Drama 101, my favorite class by far. And the role that I played wasn't necessarily the actress or the costume designer. I actually played the role of the director. And so that really, just looking back after, I lost my job back then, I was like, what do I want to do? And it hit me. I've always been, a fan of logistics, the back end stuff and being really behind the scenes, not necessarily, the star of the show. And I thought back, over to that class at UW that I took, and I was like, what, this is what I want to do, and to really put a creative, spin on it and enter the wedding industry. So.
Great answer. Good. So you went to the University of Washington.
Yes.
Are you from Seattle?
I am. Yeah. Well, I was born in LA, and then so I moved up here when I was young, and I actually lived in Tacoma my whole life, and then Seattle when I went to school. Yeah.
And so what did you go to school for? What was your goal kind of entering college, or did you know?
No, well, I actually wanted to be a nurse at first. So my mom, very typical Filipino tradition is everyone's gets into the medical field. My whole entire family is in the medical field. So, but obviously I did not go that route. So, and then just kind of ended up working, a lot. So for the two companies I've worked for in the past 12 years. So.
Was it, why didn't you want to go into the medical field? Was it just wanting to kind of go out on your own, or you just felt like your skills were better suited elsewhere?
I feel like my family, very traditional Filipino family ritual things. They want me in the medical field, but I love interacting with people in sales. My first job really was working at Circuit City back in the day. So I just love the customer interaction, client interaction. And so I've been, in that industry since I was 16 and surrounded by tech. So that definitely, has interested me more. And then which, really correlates now into, the business that we have. So just really great funnel management, client management, and customer success, is a really big point of my business too.
That's fun. I don't even know if Circuit City exists anymore.
It doesn't.
That was like my first, one of my first jobs was at Blockbuster, which is also
nice.
Kind of like it's gone. It's a relic of another time. So kind of leaving college and getting into the telecommunications and all of that, what was that process like? I mean, that seems like, going to work for AT&T and like managing all these events, like, was there kind of a build up there? How did that go?
Yeah, I was a part-time sales rep. So I actually started in the retail channel. So I'm very familiar with just handling all types of different, clients. I held a number of different positions with AT&T, from a floating area manager type of role to a sales execution lead role. So managing, the retail stores and just the execution of that. I'm certified in project management, which was very helpful in, the position I held, and the position I hold today in my 9 to 5, because it's a lot of projects. And I think, and that's something I look for when hiring for my team as well, is, do they have any project management experience to translate into the wedding industry? So.
When you say you're certified in project management, what does that mean?
I took a course, so CompTIA for project management, and then done just a number of projects in my career as well. So down to store remodels for the retail channel, and then technology rollouts as well for the companies I worked for. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been having horrendous iPhone issues today, and when you came, you were very able to at least give me some suggestions and ideas, and so it proves though that obviously you have that kind of that knack and that knowledge. Did you, when you were doing the events and things for your other companies, did you feel as much ownership over that as you do now? Did you enjoy kind of putting that together for somebody else, or do you kind of like spearheading that now with your own company?
I like doing it more now, just because I have full control. So I think, I was more so of a part of a team that would put those events together. And they of course let me have my own voice and what I feel like, would translate to a better experience, just because I was closer to, the audience than some of the, production team was. But now, I love putting together and designing, a really great vendor team, designing what the wedding looks like, working with my girls now just to produce these beautiful weddings that we can say, is a full reflection of our hard work. So.
So then talk about, you've been working at AT&T for a long time. You got laid off, you decided to start this company. Was there a lot of, was there fear there? Was there excitement? Was there, what kind of emotions, what were you kind of thinking?
Yeah, no, it was super shocking to me. I think I laid in bed for a couple of days. I was like, what do I do? And that's when I really started thinking about, what am I good at? Because it was just an opportunity for me to jump into an industry that I was really passionate about, that, I didn't necessarily, I couldn't do, in the 9-to-5 world that I like. And I love the technology field, but, you can't, you can't really mix, technology and weddings as much as I'd want to. But no, I was super scared. I think I went out all the time with my friends just to get it off my mind. I think every weekend I went out until I really created a plan of, what I wanted to do, how much income I wanted to make the next following year. So really put together a good business plan to get me out of that rut of, I just lost my job. Right. So, cause I woke up every day for 9 years thinking I love this, love the company. And then it just, but yeah, I think a lot of people go through that though. And I think the biggest thing is just accepting it and just being motivated to build what you're passionate about.
It was funny you're saying you came up with a business plan and how much money you wanted to make. Yeah. I think when I was getting ready to quit, I had kind of started Best Me videos, and we were going, and I think I went to lunch with my mom one day, and I said, I really think I feel like I'm ready to kind of make that leap, and she said, well, okay, then that sounds good. And that was enough for me. I thought, well,
your mom approves it.
If my mom approves it, because worst case, then I could always go back to her and I could say, hey, you were the one that said that you thought that I was. Did you had anybody else? You said your family, medical and things. Did you know anybody that was entrepreneurial? Was that something you had been around a lot, or was that kind of a new?
No, it was completely new now that I think about it. I did a lot of research. I did reach out to a couple real estate agents and a couple friends who had a side hustle per se, and got, some of the logistical items out of the way, right? So, what type of business do you want? What's the first step? Should I get a business checking account? The little one-on-one things, and had, just worked with a lot of my friends who I guess did have that entrepreneur experience. And then when I felt comfortable, I really just took the experience I've had over the past, 9 to 12 years or so, and brought that into starting up my own business and just jumping right into the weddings. I think, the first month that I announced on Facebook, I opened up my own business. We got actually, I would say 3 weddings within the first week, which was ironic, but it was all through word of mouth and networking and just people that were really supportive. But yeah, it was crazy. Within 7 days, we had 3 bookings for upcoming weddings. So.
But I also think though, it speaks to where you weren't specifically doing weddings before, you were doing other events, mm-hmm. right? So, at least there's somewhat of a confidence and a familiarity there. I had shot video for a long time before I specifically did a wedding, right? Where it wasn't I was a baker and then decided to go into event planning or whatever. Are you someone had you gone to a lot of weddings? Did you have a lot of girlfriends that got married? Were you really familiar with kind of that thing, or did you kind of figure it out as you went?
A little bit of both. Yeah. So a lot of my friends, have, I've helped a lot of weddings, just, I would say not so much the design part, but the logistics part. And then I was really big on networking. So a lot of the vendors that, I work with today, I've actually used for, when I worked at AT&T, in the past. So I had a lot of event experience. I would say that really translates into weddings. And, I just had to learn as I go, so taking on that first couple of weddings and just saying, okay, this is what this really looks like, and putting those timelines together. And I did, help out, with a friend at her wedding, just as a day of, and really observed it from that aspect, not running the show, but just being an assistant, a few times is, really helps as well. And I have a lot of those people too that reach out and they're like, can I just assist at a wedding? Cause I really want to see what it's like, cause I have some experience very similar to mine, project management and sales. But they, haven't been married before, haven't gone to a lot of weddings. So they just want to reach out and assist as well, which I think is a great starting point.
Talk about, so you've decided to start Cake and Lace, you're getting your team together. What was that first wedding like? You said like you went out, right? Walk me through that. What was that experience like, that process?
Yeah. So our first wedding was interesting because, they actually booked us 10 days before their wedding. Yeah, of course. Right. So it was like last minute coordination. We gave them a killer deal, obviously. And, I don't even know where to start. It wasn't a disaster. The bride and groom were very happy, but it was really bumpy along the way. So it was myself and another, and my business partner at the time. And we were just trying to stay on the same page. We're like, wait, we forgot this part. I was like, wait, what time does the florist arrive? So we were a little bumpy along the way, but we learned so much from that first wedding. And luckily it was a little smaller, so we weren't controlling like a 300 guest count like we can today. But yeah, I think there's some things that we forgot. Like I didn't realize, to tailor the needs of vendors, I think was our biggest miss. So for instance, for like photographers, they would want all the detail shots by a certain time and provide them with like the dress and the rings that we've learned to do today. Right. And really tailor to not only the bride and groom, which left happy. But I think we do a much better job now tailoring to vendors, which overall helps that entire wedding experience. So,
when you go through the process now and you're working with different couples, do you find, what are like some of the biggest, misconceptions or things that you find yourself educating couples with, or things that you wish that people do more when it comes to like approaching you guys as like wedding planners? And that could be like vendors too, but like things, that you see kind of day to day, or the same things, month over month.
Yeah. So when I do consultations with brides today, I see the biggest mistake of brides wanting to plan their entire gorgeous wedding in the first 30 days of being engaged. And I feel like that's just not the right thing to do. It really comes down to, so we offer a monthly checklist with a lot of our packages just to space out, what needs to be done with each client. So for instance, one month you might be focusing on the cake tasting. The other month you might be focusing on getting the suits for, the groomsmen and the groom, and just really alleviating that stress from the client to let them think, you're right, I don't need to plan, my cake tasting 12 months in advance. But to really, lock down the priority vendors like a photographer, a videographer, a venue, right? And within the first couple months. So, but we tailor a complete monthly checklist, 12-month checklist typically for any of our full service planning. And if you're getting married, in 6 months and you have nothing planned and you hire us for, 6 months down the road, we'll, create a 6-month checklist for them as well. That way they don't feel stressed out like they have to plan their whole wedding within 30 days. So,
but a cake tasting is way more interesting. I'd much rather want to go taste cake than figure out the tailoring for my suit.
Right.
I think, and it's a lot of like, we just talk all the time on the podcast about how like people have never done it before, right? And so they think like, oh, I have to do all this at once, or we have all these different decisions to make. And like, even I think when we got engaged, and I was like, oh my God, like I got to get all this stuff pinned down right away. And like, there's definitely stuff like your venue or whatever that you need to figure out, but then you can let some stuff go. So then talk about kind of like putting this team together that you have and kind of growing, from that first wedding now, over the last, it's been like 2 years, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't even want to think about that wedding. It just, I'm I'm happy that the bride and groom were happy. But just looking back at like the chaos behind the scenes, I'm like, so putting together the team. Yeah. So I so Diana, she's our company manager now. Her 1 year is actually today with me. So ironically, I'm here. And she DM'd me and slid in my DMs on Instagram. And she was like, "Hi, I'm an event planner from New York. I'm relocating to Seattle. And I was wondering if you had any intern opportunities." And I was like, "You know what? Sure. Why not?" And so she interned with me for a few months. And, she had experience in the past, which was great. And then just transitioned her, onto the team, and she started taking the weddings when I couldn't take them. Right. And she lives in the Kitsap area, so she's able to do weddings out there as well as in Seattle. And what I've noticed is, our marketing was just really good word of mouth or just networking. I try to network with a bunch of different vendors as well, and just, get added to, the Seattle community on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. But Diana was kind of the start of, the business as far as the growth goes. Then from there, as we started doing more and more weddings together, I realized that we were getting booked for a lot of specialty weddings, in particular like Asian weddings. So I had this vision to hire, there's a really untapped market here in the Seattle area, I felt. That's just through friends and word of mouth. And so to hire a lot of bilingual planners. So currently today we have, 6 team members on my team, and almost all of them are bilingual in some type of dialect. So we have, Karen, she specializes in Korean weddings and events. So she's getting booked like crazy for just dole ceremonies, dole celebrations, which is the first birthday of a Korean baby. And then we partner with Seattle Korean Weddings to use, I don't know if you know Blue Box Bakery. So Christine, she's amazing. But she has, Korean rentals that we use for our events as well too, and partner with her. So as time went on, I saw that we really specialized in, a lot of different like Asian just ceremonies and events. So it's not just weddings as well too. So
yeah, and I do think that there's makes people feel a lot more comfortable, like knowing, right? Like if you've gone through that, we get the same kind of questions, like, well, have you filmed this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I always say like, well, we can figure it out. But I do think that there's like a certain like comfortableness or whatever, the comfort in knowing that like, you have somebody that can help, like if my mother isn't super fluent in English, or if we have some family or whatever. I remember when I think it was my second year, I was still by myself, and we did a Cambodian wedding, and it was like one of those like 4.5 hour ceremony, like in the house, and like they come downstairs and they do some stuff, and then they go upstairs and change, and then come down and do some stuff, and like I had like no idea, and like luckily there was like a cousin or a nephew or somebody
to like translate for you.
And he's like standing by me, and I'm like, you cannot move this whole time, like you got to tell me what's going on. But it is nice, like looking back, like it would have been nice if I would have done some, proper research, or at least watch some YouTube videos. But so you think that you guys are really kind of be able to like, is that like now an expansion now? Like obviously you guys are going to continue to kind of build that out, or are you going to add more people or more specialties, or what do you think about that?
I don't know if we're going to grow more. It's a lot, maybe in the summertime. But so we have, Karen Karen and Rosa actually will specialize, in the Korean events. And then I have, Annie and Linda that specialize in, Vietnamese weddings. And then Diana actually has a Jewish wedding this upcoming summer. So just a lot of different specialty. It's nothing, marketing wise that we will, post every day on Instagram, but it is available on our website for clients, to find us. And they find us that way as well. It's one thing for... We've had, a Vietnamese wedding this past summer where they had 400 people, and just how to manage that. And just, and to your point, talking to that communication barrier, it does go down. So just working with the families in regards to the food, or even the, the venues. We have a lot of clients who, they're bilingual, but they would prefer, bilingual vendors, just because it's easier to work with, the elderly parents or whatnot as well. And just, you're probably talking about the tea ceremony for some of the weddings that you've been at, where they, it has to happen in the morning, for like the Vietnamese culture, and a lot of outfit changes. I'm sure you've recorded it while, doing video. And, but, our role is really to, take down that language barrier, but also just help out the vendors as well. To your point, it's nice when we can kind of give the vendor, like a video or photographer, a heads up, like, hey, this is about to happen, like be here, they're going in for their third costume change, but their dress change, so they'll come back in about 10 minutes in a different outfit. So make sure that's photographed. So just working, for those little details, I think make a huge difference. So
yeah, and I do find that too, where like it's not even necessarily like important for the bride and groom, but like to their parents or the grandparents or like the families really want it, and so by osmosis, it's important to the bride and groom, and then obviously it's important to us. But that making sure that everything goes correctly and that it's in the right, because we had one this summer, and the bride was Vietnamese and the groom was African American, and like he's like, I don't know any of this, but he goes, I want it, whatever we need to do, I want this to be,
they respected it,
the exact way it needs to go. And, and luckily, their planner had experience with that. And so, we did like the walkthrough and kind of saw how everything would go. Cause, her mom was like, no, this is how we're doing it. So it's good to kind of have that. So do you find with your role as a planner that you have to deal a lot with like different parents and, requests that they have, or helping kind of manage those expectations?
Oh my gosh, yes. So especially with modern brides today, maybe millennial brides per se, they want to respect, their culture, right? So I have, and sometimes it's all last minute too. Like you're getting pressure from, your grandparents, like, why aren't you doing a money dance? So I did a Vietnamese Filipino wedding this past summer, and the night of the wedding, they did their rehearsal dinner, and half the family was like, "You're doing a money dance, right?" And that's where the bride and groom, they're doing their dance together, and people come and pin cash onto the bride's dress and the groom's suit, and incorporating that into their timeline last minute. So I do find that family definitely plays a part in that, but a lot of the brides and grooms are very open to changing their timeline and incorporating that in the wedding. So I picked up some pins from the store on the way to the wedding. We had a pillow ready, and then people just lined up to pin cash on the bride, and made the bride very happy. I'm sure they made a good amount of money, but the family was very, very pleased as well. And then our role also is really just, letting the videographer and the photographer that day know, like, hey, there's a one last minute change. It's very important to the family. Let's make sure that gets in there, so. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was just laughing in my head when I did the Cambodian one, and I had spent so long trying to put together that video because I knew, like, okay, this has got to be, like, I did. And after I filmed it, like, I did go on and like, watch YouTube videos and like, okay, what does this mean? And what does that mean? And putting it all together. And so I had sent them like their highlight, and then I sent them their, the full kind of thing. And Dorothy's like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, I'm sure I did something wrong, or I'm sure that like, it's not, because I want it to be correct. And I'm sure they're going to come back and ask. And like, they were just like, yeah, whatever, it looks good. Cause it was what the parents wanted. They just wanted the flashy kind of, music and stuff. And they were like, oh yeah, that's fine. And I was like, oh no, like I spent so long on this. But no, I mean, you want it to be correct, and you want it to be, getting married isn't just, for the bride and groom. Unfortunately, it is a lot of kind of what both families want, and, parents and stuff. Do you have any other funny stories about that, or anything kind of incorporating that?
Oh gosh, where do we start? Yeah, I think so I did a fairly large Vietnamese wedding. It was 400 something guests, and the bride wanted to do a seating chart for it, and I was kind of nervous because we're a last minute seating chart mess, and so the reality was that, an uncle was telling everyone, oh, don't listen to the seating chart, just sit wherever you guys want. But he was saying it in Cambodian. So but luckily my assistant that day was able to translate it for me. And I was like, hey, just FYI, we might have to add, another table to the layout last minute because we're not really following the seating chart, So it's just funny how everything works out. But, I was able to give the brides a heads up, and she was, very accommodating, like, yeah, more of my family showed up and they're not really following the seating chart. So they could just sit wherever. So
I remember we've done a bunch of those down at that Tea Palace in Renton, and it's like this massive room. It fits 400 people. And I've always thought it was funny in there because there was this series where we did a bunch of them. I was down there a lot, and we'd always noticed that there would be like lots of tables that were empty. And I was like, why are they not, like, I would talk with the photographer, something like, well, did they, like, what is going on here? And she's like, well, no, like, in this culture, like the RSVP thing isn't as, right. So like they might invite 400 people. And so they have to plan for 400 people, right? Because, heaven forbid somebody, if your uncle shows up and you don't have a spot for him. So yeah, so we'd always go around and be like, man, there's like 100 people didn't show up. And so, well, no, it's just that they don't.
It's definitely the culture.
Yeah.
And it's something we are aware of. Linda on my team, she's very familiar with, the tea ceremonies and then the large weddings, Vietnamese weddings as well. And she's done a great job this past summer as well too. But yeah, the seating chart RSVP list isn't, real sometimes. And that's, we're totally used to that as well. And, another aspect too of the weddings is, and I'm sure you've dealt with this as a videographer, is when the bride and groom and their bridal party, they go to every single table, and they take a photo or a video with every guest, and that's something that, as planners, from a planner perspective, we make sure we, ask the bride and groom, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in incorporating into your timeline? So we're familiar with just those little details for, Asian weddings, just because we've, been through a lot as well, but just, grew up in the culture too. And just being bilingual definitely helps, in those aspects. But yeah, I mean, sometimes they go from table to table, they take a shot of Hennessy and they, they make you make your way as a videographer, photographer, planner, with them, right? To hit 30, 40 tables.
Yeah, so. It is like the longest. Cause it's always awesome. Always like near the end of the night though, but it's always like, oh, this is like an hour of just going around.
Yes.
It's really important because everybody that comes, they're guests at the wedding and they kind of want to have their moment of, like they give them the gift,
yes. Mm-hmm.
and they do the shot and it's, they'll do, it's like, but to them it's new, right? Even though we've done it 4, 5, 10 tables in a row, for that table, it's new, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah. So, and as from a planner's point of view too, I had a bride and she didn't put it in her timeline. But I actually, I set up the timeline to have, an emergency backup in case it was incorporated last minute. And, her parents and, her family was like, you're going around, right? And she was, she didn't want to do it. But luckily I was able to maneuver the timeline around. I had some, 45 minutes of buffer room. And then I was able to just navigate the vendors last minute saying, hey, we're doing it. So that was a lot of fun too. So
yeah, because that's a big change. That's a big difference,
yeah.
Between like not doing that at all and going around. How do you, so with you working now and managing this team, how do you do that? It seems like it would be a lot of coordination on your part. Talk about kind of just managing and I guess obviously your past project manager aerial experience, but talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of work. I think it requires a lot of coffee. So no, I love the girls on my team. We just had our annual business meeting not too long ago at Cedarbrook Lodge, and it was so much fun. So I have Diana on my team and she really handles the day-to-day operations, a lot of the social media marketing, and then just a lot of networking and training. We have one girl who just started, so just training her to get her experience up, before summer hits. But how do I do it? Gosh, I don't know. I think maybe I just don't sleep. I don't know. No. But so for myself, I still do weddings. So I have capped myself out to 5 weddings a year. And then just allowing the girls to, to take on, they average anywhere from 3 to 6 weddings, just depending on their availability as well. So, and that really correlates with, the goals I have as far as how many weddings can we take a year? Who is our ideal client and, communicating it down to them. But I think, just a lot of structure for like a work-life balance, I guess, really helps. So, I have 2 iPhones that you saw earlier. I stay super organized. I have calendar invites for everything. I think I made myself a calendar invite when we scheduled this, right? And so I even have calendar invites for my personal life. Like I'm going to happy hour later on tonight. So it's in my calendar if it's, really happening. So I think just a lot of organization on a Sunday night to plan out the rest of the week is really key to managing, for those that want to, pursue a 9 to 5 because they love their job, but still want to have that, entrepreneur or creative outlet for another business is definitely doable. So
do you think having that kind of mindset of organization then helps you kind of relate and keep your clients and your other employees and stuff kind of on track?
Yes. Yeah. So we, we're very, very organized individuals. I have a lot of direct report experience as well from my past work life. So when I, interview the girls, I make sure that, they, or anyone who wants to join the team, that they have an idea of organization down to the hour, just making sure that they understand, when, I don't have to teach them the calendar management, side of, being a wedding planner, or, they also had really great suggestions for me when they started, like how we organize our data. So we use, a really great CRM tool and we collaborate with our brides and also, one another. So I can attach, 2 planners to 1 event. We have a birthday party coming up, and there's 2 planners working on that, so I can visually see it online as well. So Aisle Planner, which I'm sure every planning pro is fully aware of. So we use that religiously and really stay organized with all the events that we have in there.
Yeah, I have a love-hate. I've tried to go into that kind of stuff. I have like a web now of Google Drive and it's people tell me it seems pretty good, but yeah, it is. I've definitely every year at this time of year I always entertain kind of migrating everything to one of those, Aisle Planner or like Tave or I don't know,
Honeybook or something.
Yeah, like 20 hats or 17 hats or whatever. So, but you obviously find that that's beneficial to the client experience too?
Yes. And when I first started, I had Google Drives and folders and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm really organized. But then I really noticed that, one step ahead that we could offer our clients, even for like our day of coordination package, which is really like a month of coordination, right? They can have their free online account, so they can go in and I can see their wedding being built in front of my eyes too, if they didn't hire us to plan. But at first I was doing like a lot of Google folders and stuff, but as the team grew, I knew I needed to invest in more of a premium type of software because, there might be 2 of my planners working on one wedding or 2 of them, one working on the design and one's more of her assistant working on something else. So yeah, I would highly recommend it if you have a lot of events, for the year. So we ended with over 30 events in the past 12 months. So it helped a lot.
It's good to say. Well, and then plus obviously with your other work and personal and everything too, kind of keeping that. Yeah, I remember when I was kind of doing my interview a couple years ago for assistants, and my big thing was just like, if I text you, like
answer
the second you can, you need to let me know.
Yeah.
And it's that, there's not everything else, emails and stuff. But like if I got to get a hold of you, if I text you, the second you get that, we got to know what's going on. Because a lot of the time it'll be like, hey, are you available? Like I got somebody on the phone, like we need to know, do you feel like you do a good job kind of communicating with your team and that works out? Yeah.
So we had, a bride fill out a form last night and I just posted it. We have, a really cool group chat and one of the girls took it. So, but they're hungry. They're really passionate about weddings as well. And so I think that type of open communication, I'm really big on just making sure that they're taken care of, they're developed, and just employee engagement overall is really just big to me, just over but even before my life in the wedding industry, making sure that they feel supported as employees. And I also tell them, this is really a chance to build your portfolio. So, I had someone leave my team and she started her own company, which is great, but she had, a lot of portfolio experience, from my company, which is awesome to see her develop. So, but yeah, no, I think it's been a lot of fun, having the girls on the team and growing us so far.
Talk about the marketing that you guys do. Is it mostly just online? How are you continuing to get the word out? Where are you finding like benefits here in Seattle specifically,
Yeah. So marketing, that's always a fun subject, right? For any entrepreneur in the Seattle industry. We're so tech savvy up here. So mostly Facebook. I don't, do sponsored ads every now and then. I've tested it, but sometimes I just can't keep up with the analytics. So I try to limit myself to, using the different forums and being tagged in the Seattle wedding community is huge for us. But word of mouth is, really big too. We just... And, I don't know if the number of followers you have on Instagram equates to your success in the industry. There's big companies out there that have like 200 followers, right? And then, we just hit 1,000. So I'm happy about that. But I think it's a mixture of, just connecting with the clients over Instagram is our biggest thing. So, I'll respond to almost every single comment that comes onto our photos. Any DM, I try my best to respond to it right away and just really connect with either the vendor or the client. I had a photographer this morning reach out for a styled shoot, and just being really responsive, I think, on social media is really appealing to the audience, along with, word of mouth as well. So, but as far as like paid types of stuff, we're listed on Seattle Bride. So I'm a huge fan of Seattle Bride. Michelle over there is phenomenal with just supporting, my business. And we hosted Brunch for Brides last summer. We're going to do it again this summer over at 10 Degrees. So Michelle helped a lot with sponsoring that event and giving us magazines and everything we needed. So I would say a more local type of marketing, really tailored towards, events or just being really in contact with the clients is more so our style versus a lot of the sponsored, stuff, so.
I'm going to throw Alan, who's has been on this podcast already, my friend and a DJ, a Puget Sound DJ. His Instagram, when I was researching with his, I think he has like 350 or 400 followers, which is like whatever. But he has like one post ever. Yeah. And I think it's just people just like tag him and stuff. And so they're like, everyone adds him. And I'm like, Alan is absolutely killing the Instagram game to have one post and then like 400 followers or whatever it is. So I was like, I don't know, whatever.
It was really like him. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever voodoo he's doing. Talk about kind of like, what is your ideal client? What do you find that people are attracted to you, and who do you guys like to work with, as a team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So aside from, the Asian event culture specialty that, we spoke about earlier, I would say our ideal client is more the, modern romantic fun type of client. And to get into the, the details, I would say that millennial type of bride, right? So 25 to 35 or so. And, maybe getting married for the first time kind of thing, just in today's day and age. But, and not so much of, a budget. I think, we're pretty set on like our packages and pricing. We don't really do too many custom packages unless it's a one-off. But I would definitely say like that modern bride, right? So someone who, we have a rule at Cake and Lace events where we don't do cookie cutter weddings. So like sometimes I'll see, one of the girls will put together a design plan and I'll be like, so like how personal is this 1 to 10? Like, can we really see the bride and groom through the details that you selected? So we check each other every now and then when it comes to weddings. But, for the bride who wants that modern, wedding that's really about them and wants a team that focuses, because we have a really set planning process at our company that all of us follow. And that structure and organization is really, who we mesh with. I mean, I have turned down brides because it just wasn't like the right mix for us. So the other month, someone reached out and said, hey, I really want a Lord of the Rings themed wedding. And I literally, I threw that on our group chat, with the planners I have. And we're just like, I don't know. I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it, So it wasn't, the Lord of the Rings wedding wasn't us. So, sometimes we turn down some weddings that you just doesn't feel like we're the right, planners for them. So,
yeah, when you speak of like that, that modern bride, like, are there some trends kind of you see kind of coming or different things? I know a lot of like customization, but like, is there any like kind of specifics you can speak on that?
When I think modern, the design aspect, there's a lot of geometric stuff on there. I mean, we're limited to not so many outdoorsy style venues out here in Washington, right? But I would say that, but also their personality too. So something that might attract them is, going to be the CRM tool that they really like. We really focus on personalizing that planning experience. All of our packages also have a custom Snapchat filter. And sometimes that just really excites the brides to, and I tell them, the second you walk down the aisle, there's going to be a Snapchat filter that pops up on your wedding day. And that's just, complimentary of, from us to them. And that really attracts the brides, just how, in tune we are with modern day trends and technology, and collaboration tools. And, we offer, a bunch of different ways they can communicate with us, et cetera. So.
And so then, kind of continuing on now, it's been a good 2 years, and then, continuing kind of being in the Seattle wedding community, where do you kind of see you guys maturing and kind of evolving here in the next little while?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I haven't really thought of that. I think we're still recovering from the summer. So, I'm excited. I think, what we really like to do is, network with a lot of vendors. I think, for every wedding we have, I always keep the other vendors in mind as well. Like, what experiences, not only the bride and groom and their friends and family experiencing, but, are the vendors eating? Is the photographer getting a solid 20 minutes to munch down a meal? So I think, as far as our future goes for Cake and Lace events, it's definitely staying, that modern wedding planning company, in the Seattle area. We are expanding to Kitsap quite a bit more. So Diana's located over there, and she's working with a ton of venues in the Kitsap area just to switch over some of the marketing. So I would say that is also going to be launching this upcoming summer. And then our second, annual Brunch for Brides event. So I team up with Sweet J Catering, so Jamie and her team, to put on these events in Seattle, and it was so much fun last year. I think we had over 200 people attend, and we just marketed it through, a lot of social media. But I would say, yeah, a lot of specialty types of events, expanding the Kids Up area and just really focusing on making sure that, we're the right planners for the client. So
one thing too, I would be upset if I didn't ask you about, is this virtual planning now? I know I saw you post something online the other day about it. And I told myself I was going to touch on that before we left.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot to.
That's okay.
No, we're launching that in 2019, and ironic. So it's on our website now. It says, coming soon, but we actually just booked a bride last night, who is interested in that. And one reason is because she lives in LA. So she, hired us for a day of coordination. But she wants to make sure that, she has the right consultant, to walk her through, the 9 months of wedding planning she has left. So she was able to, book us for the day of package, but then add on 3 planning sessions. And we offer that for a lot of the modern brides just because they're very big into planning and designing their own wedding, right? So they can Pinterest up a storm and know exactly what they want, but they just need that industry guidance, which is really what people are booking that virtual planning session for. What that looks like, it's over FaceTime, it's over Google Video or Skype or whatnot. And it just allows them to, plan, and my planners to plan from the comfort of their own couch, their own home, but really connect with the bride along the way until their day of coordination. So, and I don't know if anyone else is offering that in the industry, but I feel that, a lot of the millennial brides, they may not have, the knack of, looking over contracts or how to space out, when to do a cake tasting or how to word their invitations. But they want that guidance several times a year. But they know exactly what they want their wedding to look like, what the trends are. So it's a really great add-on package for that. So.
It's tough. Yeah, I find constantly kind of trying to figure out the right balance between talking online on the phone or Skype or whatever versus in person kind of sit down consultations. And I don't know if anybody really knows what the right answer is. I mean, I know I drove quite a ways last week for a meeting, and then I found out they're going to meet with a couple other vendors, which is great. But man, that would have been really nice just to do 20 minutes on Skype versus, it was ended up being 2 hours for both of us by the time we were, driving around and stuff. Do you find with planning and consulting with clients and things, are more of the millennials kind of just moving to strictly online or what do you think?
A little bit. Yeah, I would say I'm always looking for new ways to infuse technology into my business, given my background. And so whether it's conference calls and stuff like that. But yeah, no, to answer your question, I think it's definitely going to be a trend. I think that a lot of the planning sessions being virtual is huge just because there's a lot of, people that just can't get out of that Amazon traffic that can meet you, at, in the evening. And, but just for them to have, 60 to 90 minutes with you, over Skype or something is huge. I mean, you look at the other, industries. I mean, you can talk to a nurse by pressing a button on an app and then you have a live nurse telling you your symptoms or something, and it's that's really where, technology has taken us now. I mean, you can go shopping at Amazon and not even have to pay. It just checks out, when you walk out the door. So I think of, little ways to infuse just modern, not design, but more so planning, into our packages, like the virtual planning sessions or, a complimentary Snapchat filter, because it's fun, it's fun, it's convenient. And I just think that it's definitely going to be the future, for just the event industry soon. So
continuing with kind of trying to offer new or different things, do you have anything else that you're working on in terms of things for your clients or future brides?
Yeah, so I'm excited to announce that we will be bringing back Brunch for Brides this upcoming summer. So Sweet J Catering and myself will be hosting it. Last year, it was extremely successful. A lot of great giveaways, a lot of great networking for both vendors and for clients and just anyone in the wedding industry. And I'm excited. So it was more so a fun party, over brunch with a lot of the brides in the room. There's over 200 people that showed up last year. So we're getting a much bigger venue this year. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be during the summertime. So just keep an eye out for an invitation for that or on social media. But it's a definitely a fun event.
And that's people that are working with you, brides and things to kind of get together. What's the thought process behind that?
It's anyone. If you're getting married, show up. I'd like to say it's a smaller boutique version of the Seattle Wedding Show, way smaller, but not 10,000 people. But it allows you to really have that intimate time with vendors. Then that way you're not feeling you have to chase through, 30 aisles of vendors, like at other wedding expos and stuff. But We throw it on for a lot of fun. I think the vibe in there is just more to throw a party and celebrate your marriage, but then also talk to vendors and get advice, for planning your upcoming wedding. So, but brides, they can come in and win a bunch of stuff. I think we had so many giveaways, and we only had an audience of about 200-ish people, so a lot of people walked away with free wedding cakes, free calligraphy. We had a really great special for 50% off your wedding planner. So, just more to come on that. But I would say, yeah, definitely check it out. It's open to anyone, in the industry or brides to be as well. So.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you coming in today. I'm glad that I know you're really busy, and I'm glad that we could kind of finally get this pinned down. If people want to learn more about you and your company and kind of the services you provide, what would you have them check out?
Yeah, I think our website's first, so cakeandlaceseattle.com. And then our Instagram, we're really responsive on Instagram. So whether you, slide in our DMs. So for mine, it's, at Reneille, Reneille, or our company one at cakeandlace.events as well. So yeah, DM us.
Perfect. Well, this has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thank you so much.